Hello and welcome to Payoff Pitch, Action Network's Major League Baseball betting podcast presented by BetMGM. I'm Sean Zerillo, joined today by BJ Cunningham for Friday Best Bets in Major League Baseball. And we're going to jump right in with this full 15-game slate and get started with our best bets. BJ, I'm going to kick it to you first.
Yeah, I like the Blue Jays for the first 5 innings at minus 106. You know, Kikuchi has gotten roughed up in his last couple starts, but if you actually dig into those starts, he's actually been pretty unlucky. In both starts, his xFIP has been below par. In fact, when he got blown up against the Red Sox, his xFIP was only 2.17 in that start. He's got a really good fastball. It hasn't been generating great results, but it's got a stuff plus rating of 119. He generally likes to use it in the middle to upper part of the zone. Does a really good job utilizing that to set up all of his off-speed pitches that are all generating over a 25% whiff rate and allowing under a 320 expected weighted on base average. The Yankees are one of the better lineups in baseball against left-handed hitting, but when you dig into who that's because of, it's basically just two hitters. It's Juan Soto and it's Aaron Judge. Everybody else in the Yankees lineup outside of Volpe is below average in terms of weighted runs created plus. We'll be facing Marcus Stroman, who's one of the more overvalued pitchers in Major League Baseball. He has a 3.15 ERA. Expected ERA is closer to 4.4. xFIP is up at 4.6. He generally likes to use a sinker and a cutter. And his cutter is the only pitch that grades out above average or above 100 by Stuff Plus rating. Both of those pitches are allowing over a 320 expected weighted on base average, even though the Blue Jays don't hit those two pitches specifically that well. Stroman is always somebody who's really begging for negative aggression. Also, Kikuchi has faced the Yankees twice this season, only given up one run in both those starts, and his xFIP has been really, really low in both of them. So I want to avoid the Blue Jays bullpen here, which has been kind of a disaster. So I like them for the first 5 at minus 106.
Yeah, I'm on the same page with you, BJ. So I projected the Jays closer to minus 125 for the first 5 innings, minus 115 for the full game. So I will be on them in both halves. And my concern with Kikuchi was his past 2 starts, gave up 9 runs in those 2 outings, but his stuff plus on the year, 115, his stuff plus in those 2 outings, 121. So no concerns about the velocity or the stuff in those outings. Command just been a little shaky, and he's been a guy throughout his career. The command has gone up and down. He's been a little bit of a Jekyll and Hyde pitcher, but when you look at the underlying pitch modeling metrics, 111 stuff plus, 106 pitching plus, 103 location plus, all career bests for Kikuchi. He has that 3.9 expected ERA. That's a half run better than Stroman, who has been very lucky by batting average on balls in play and strand rate. Stroman with a batting average on balls in play under 250 this year. He's at 295 for his career. He's 50 points off of his career average. His strand rate, 81.4% compared to 72% for his career. So Marcus Stroman is a guy I've been down on all year. Stuff plus rating, just compared to 2 years ago. Look at his line and his stuff compared to 2 years ago. 4.4 expected ERA, 7.1% strikeout minus walk rate, 94 stuff plus, 95 location plus. 2 years ago, 4 expected ERA, strikeout minus walk rate doubled, 14.6%. Stuff plus, location plus, pitching plus, all at 100 or better. So definitely under the hood, Marcus Stroman has taken a significant step back. The Yankees defense has benefited him certainly this year, and I think that's why he's been able to keep that ERA in the 3s when expected indicators say it should be in the mid-4s. So Kikuchi, a better pitcher by my estimation, and the Jays, something that goes under the radar because they do perform or they do struggle offensively, but they're a top 2 defensive team by both defensive runs saved and outs above average. They're either 1 or 2 in both of those rankings. So it doesn't matter as much when you play a team like the Yankees who hit a lot of home runs. I mean, obviously you need the ball to be in the yard in order to catch it. So defensive, value downgrades a little bit against a team like the Yankees, but they still do have an advantage there. And that's the one thing that sort of inflates them in my model on a daily basis is the defensive value that the Jays provide. So in terms of my best bet, because the Jays are not my best bet, but there were an underdog I was going to get to later, but it's just me and BJ here today. So I feel like I had to piggyback off of his play. The bet that jumped out to me the most, and not necessarily a best bet today, I kind of like all these equally, but the Guardians over 9.5 when I first ran the model, or when I first started putting things in. I do weather first, then I adjust starting pitchers to the number I think they should be at. Then I do lineups and then finally adjust for bullpens. But between the lineup and the bullpen stage, I already had a total projected in the 10s for Guardians and Royals, and I should have just fired at it because it was 9.5 plus money, 9 at minus 120. I really wanted that 9 minus 120. Instead, I ended up laying 9 and minus or 9.5 minus 112 a little bit later on by the time I actually circled back to betting on that game. But I projected this total at 10.3. Tristan McKenzie has been pitching through a torn UCL all season. He dealt with it last year, and his expected ERA is 5.3. His command is a mess. He still has strikeout stuff. His stuff plus is still around league average, but it's down 13 points from where it was last year or 2 years ago. He was at 113 in 2022, 100 this season. His location plus rating down 9 points from 102 to 91. So command typically the first thing to go and the last thing to come back when a pitcher has a UCL injury. He's clearly dealing with serious command issues, and that expected ERA in the low fives would certainly indicate that he's nowhere near 100% or the level he was at 2 seasons ago. Alec Marsh is a bit more interesting because he has average pitch modeling metrics. He has an above average strikeout minus walk rate, but a 4.7 expected ERA, and that's roughly where all of the projection systems have him, is in the mid to high fours. So the Guardians have the bullpen edge here too. I'm probably looking at Royals first 5 or pass in terms of a side, just because I do like Marsh a little bit more than McKenzie. That Guardians bullpen has a significant advantage. But as I said, I projected this total at 10.3. Good hitting weather on Friday, 88 degrees at first pitch. Wind blowing out to left field should lessen as the game goes along. Get a little bit cooler and that wind should die down. But especially early when both these starters are in the game, good hitting weather. So as I said, projected 10.3, lengthy over 9.5 up to about minus 120, maybe even a bit higher. And then 10, even money, minus 102 would be my cutoff price. So wish I got that 9 at minus 120, but I'm fine with it up to 10 at minus 102 for the over between the Guardians and the Royals. BJ going with Blue Jays first 5 for his best bet. Let's turn our attention to a couple more totals in our Fade the Public section. Games between the Rays and Nationals and the Marlins and Phillies. I was looking at the public percentages for tomorrow, and as we now record these podcasts, or all 3 of these podcasts overnight the night before, the pick percentage data, doesn't have nearly as much behind it as we might on the morning of the game or right before first pitch. But the 2 did stand out that had 99% bets and money were Rays Nationals over 7.5 and Marlins Phillies over 7.5. No bets for me on either of those totals. I projected those at 7.3 and 8.6 respectively. Marlins money line or pass would be the side I would go with there. Projected them at plus 220. I do have thoughts on one of these games in terms of a side, but BJ, I just want to turn it to you first. Rays Nationals over 7.5 and Marlins Phillies over 8.5. Where do you have those numbers projected?
Yeah, I have the Nationals raised at 7.6 and the Marlins and the Phillies at 8.7. So kind of really in line with the market there on both of those.
And anything on a side for either of those games?
Slight lean towards the Rays against the Nationals. Eflin is somebody that doesn't really project well by Stuff Plus, but he's got some of the best command of his arsenal of anybody in baseball. 108 location plus rating. He's got a very low expected ERA, very low walk rate as well. So he's going to force the Nationals into hitting. I mean, the Nationals aren't a better split. They're a terrible team against lefties. They're better against righties. And Mitchell Parker, he's got bad Stuff Plus rating as well. Like, he's at 88 right now. None of his pitches really grade out that well. He's pretty reliant on his fastball, which hasn't been below average this season. It's allowing a 346 expected weighted on base average. And that means the Rays will also be in their better split. They're better against left-handed pitching than they are against righties. They have a 342 expected weighted on base average against left-handed fastballs. So pretty decent matchup for the Rays here. Projected them at minus 162. So slight edge on them at minus 150.
Yeah, a bit more aggressive for me on the Rays. I make them minus 173 for the full game, minus 191 for the first 5 innings. So I will bet them for their both halves. Just looking at the top of the order against left-handed pitchers since 2002, or not 2022. Yandy Diaz, 167. Arozarena, 141. Ahmed Rosario, 119. Isaac Paredes, 128 WRC plus against left-handed pitching. So the top 4 hitters really smashed lefties. Eflin, second best walk rate in baseball last year. This year leads baseball, 1.8% walk rate. Stuff Plus has gone down. The command has gotten better. Mitchell Parker is a bit more difficult to project. He's a 4 expected ERA this season, ERA in the mid 3s, but pitch modeling metrics and his strikeout minus walk rate kind of say he's closer to a league average pitcher at 13.7% strikeout minus walk rate. his FIP projections between 4.3 and 4.6. You look at the underlying stuff, good slider, but average command and really nothing else pops up. So I think he's closer to a number 4 starter and those 4.3 to 4.6 FIP projections than he is to that 4 expected ERA he's put up. So I view closer to a 1.5 differential, a 1.25 differential between these two pitchers than, half a run, which is how they performed on their expected ERA to date. And I think Eflin has just proven himself that command goes a long way. And I guess it's kind of a theme for me in terms of pitchers I bet and pitchers we'll discuss on this podcast, but I like guys with low walk rates who have at least average strikeout rates. I think giving you that high floor, just in terms of how I model stuff out, gives you a really good chance. And it's the kind of guys I want to bet on from start to start because a low walk rate is going to lead to consistency. So, 3 expected ERA for Eflin last season, 3.4 this season. Dealt with some injuries, but the walk rate has gone even lower, and he's pitched really well of late. And I know he's giving up runs, and you see the 4 runs in the game logs and start to start, but he is throwing the ball quite well. So I'm going to keep backing him. A couple of underdogs for Friday's slate. I already discussed the Toronto Blue Jays. Going to go ahead and give out the San Francisco Giants as well. Another bet that I was about to fire and probably should have done it sooner, especially if the first 5 innings, because I saw a number close to even money with the Dodgers actually juiced up for the first 5 innings with Landon Knack against Logan Webb. And by the time I rechecked that line, the Giants were very appropriately at minus 122, which is closer to where I project it. I project the minus 120 for the full game. I guess minus 130 for the first 5 innings. The Dodgers lineup, I'll continue to echo it, but it's just really shallow after the top 4 spots in the order. You go Pajas, Hayward, Rojas, Lux, and Biggio. I mean, is that better than Soler, Estrada, Conforto, Villar, and Matos? I don't think so necessarily. I guess the Giants put weaker hitters at the top of their lineup, and the back of their lineup is a little bit more stacked, but the bullpens here are pretty comparable. I might even give the Giants a small advantage, and Logan Webb certainly a better pitcher for me than Landon Knack. Knack has a really good fastball and slider. I think he could be a really good reliever. Jury's still out for me if he's going to be a good starter. I think at best right now, he's a number 4 pitcher. Command is going to be an issue. He had a high walk rate in the minors, and the high minors, I should say, in AAA. It's carried over a bit into the majors, and that 97 location plus rating indicates that it could continue to be an issue. But I do think his stuff is underrated. I would expect that strikeout rate to come up from where it's been thus far in his MLB career. I think he'll do better than a 10.8 or 9.8% strikeout minus walk rate. I would expect that to be closer to league average, but at best, I think he's a number 3 starter or a number 4 starter where Logan Webb remains an ace for me. The concern with Webb earlier in the year, strikeout rate was down, walks were up, and he has a 4.3 expected ERA on the season, but it's bounced back. His results bounced back of late, and he owns a 112 pitching plus rating or a 112 stuff plus rating and a 107 pitching plus rating, which are both career highs. So under the hood, I mean, Logan Webb is as good as ever. I'm actually projecting him for a 3.3 ERA. FIP projections out there have him closer to 3.1. So I might even be low on Webb relative to the more optimistic projections out there. And as I said, I still make the Giants about minus 120 in this matchup. So curious if you're joining me on San Francisco as a quote unquote underdog, not a real underdog, but a minus 105 dog or so for Friday, BJ, and anything else you might have for the slate.
Yeah, so I would probably be joining you on the Giants for the first 5. I know you said you have minus 130. I have them at minus 132, minus 110 for the full game, so pretty close to in line. And it's also, echoing everything you said, also it's Logan Webb at home where he's pitched a half a run better than he has over his career comparatively to on the road. For me, I'm taking another first 5. I like the Cubs for the first 5 against the Brewers at plus 110. Speaking of Tyone, he's kind of similar in the same realm as Eflin, where his doesn't have a great stuff plus rating. It's actually only 88, but his location plus is 108, and his pitching plus in turn has up to about 103, 104. So he's somebody who has really good command over his entire arsenal. His off-speed pitches have been really good this season. He's utilizing his fastball more up in the zone. Even though he's lost some velocity on it, he's doing a really good job utilizing it up in the zone, generating a high fly ball rate. He's actually generating the same fly ball rate as he did last year, 43%, but his home run to fly ball rate is down over 5% from last year. So improving on not allowing a lot of home runs. He's gotten some pretty favorable conditions at Wrigley a couple times, which has helped him out a little bit. But he will be facing Colin Ray, who's one of the more overvalued pitchers in baseball. I mean, he's got a 5.3 expected ERA, which is almost 2 runs higher than his actual ERA. He basically just throws a sinker and a cutter. Both those pitches grade out well below average by Stuff Plus. They're both allowing over a 400 expected weighted on base average. And he's somebody who doesn't generate any swings and misses. And even the contact that he does generate is not soft. It's like very average type contact. So I think the Cubs have a pretty significant starting pitching advantage here. Now, the Brewers are the better offensive team. They have a way better bullpen. They're better defensively. So I'm going to eliminate the bullpens here. I don't really want to deal with how bad the Cubs have been. Cubs are second to last in baseball by Stuff Plus, and the Brewers are obviously one of the best. So projected the Cubs as minus 107 favorites for the first 5. So I think anything plus money is good on the Cubs here in Taillon.
Yeah, I make the minus 102 for the first 5, and I make the Brewers minus 115 for the full game. Colin Ray, among pitchers, so this is outs above average, which is StatCast defensive metric, behind pitchers. So the luckiest pitchers in baseball this season, Aaron Nola plus 9 behind him, Colin Ray plus 7. Second luckiest pitcher in baseball, tied with Joe Ryan and Framber Valdez in terms of defensive value behind him above average this season. Definitely worth noting. Big differential between his expected ERA and his actual ERA, and also his strikeout minus walk rate taking a big step back this year as his Stuff Plus and velocity has fallen. So yeah, definitely some signs of concern with Colin Ray. The Brewers just need pitchers. Tommy John surgery for Robert Gasser, and I know they've gotten some decent contributions from guys they brought up from AAA, but definitely going to run out of pitching at some point soon. And getting a little bit nervous about my Brewers' futures. They need Devin Williams back in a bad way. Their starting pitching is just getting really shallow, and you can only do these bullpen games so many days, and they've never been a team that's going to go out and necessarily make big acquisitions at the trade deadline. So maybe they make some small moves to secure their pitching depth, but remains a concern for the Brewers.
Bringing up Dallas,
a big divisional lead, I'm worried it might be them.
Yeah, bringing up Dallas Keuchel is not the most ideal move that a team wants to make. I can promise you the Brewers did not want to do that. They are kind of forced into a corner right now.
They won that game in extras, right?
They did. Yeah. The first 5 didn't go well, but they won in extras.
Oh, Dallas Keuchel, we thought you were gone, but back you come.
Yeah. Watch some rumors come out about Arietta or something.
That would be the next guy on the list.
That would rile up the Action Network crew pretty
Mad
good.
Bum. Yep. Yeah. Bring them all back.
Yep.
Full 15-game slate for Friday. As I said, I've got a couple more bets. 2 more I'm watching. The Cardinals playing right now. The Royals playing right now. I need to see how those bullpens shake out. As I said, I did give out the Royals over either way. That's only going to go up based on how I projected. But BJ, I'll save my final 2 for a moment after you give any other bets or thoughts you have for Friday slate.
Yeah, just one more so far. Stay tuned in the Action Network app. I'll try to post anything else that I have. But Braves and Pirates over. Well, it's down now to over 8.5 at minus 120. Martin Perez back on the mound, coming off of an injury. He was bad before the injury. 71 Stuff Plus rating, expected ERA well above 5. The walk rate is incredibly high. Funny enough, the start that he had last before he got injured was against the Braves, and although he only went 3 innings and gave up 1 run, his xFIP in that start was well over 5. In fact, his 3 starts before he got injured, his xFIP was well above 5. So although the Braves don't hit lefties as well as they did last season, they're still top 5 by weighted runs created plus. So they should have a decent matchup against them. And Charlie Morton's on the mound. He's 40 now, I believe. He's got 1 pitch. It's his curveball. And that's it. Like every other pitch grades out well below average by Stuff Plus. Every one of those pitches allowing over a 350 expected weighted on base average. The Pirates are average by Major League standards against right-handed curveballs. So, I mean, this is like a game from like 2017 with Charlie Morton and Martin Perez on the mound. So I don't think these 2 pitchers should be on a mound in 2024, and projected north of 10 runs here. So, or excuse me, north of 9.5 runs is what I meant to say. 9.6. So I like over 8.5 at -120.
Yeah, I didn't have that total quite as high. Not so sure why, because it's not like I'm particularly high on either pitcher. It's not like I bet on Morton ever. I make it 9.1. So
there's 7-mile-an-hour winds coming in from left field, but it is gonna be 90 degrees. So not that should play too big of a factor.
You said it was 8.5 -120 though, right?
Yep.
Yeah, at -120, it's basically like a neutral edge for me. So if I had it at let's see, if I had it at like 9.3, I think I could justify -120. But yeah, at 9.1, it's tough to do that. Yeah, 9.3. It's amazing like how I've learned exactly where my number needs to be to know exactly what my 2% edge is at this point after doing it for 6 years. I know that it needs to, 8.5 versus 9.3 is exactly a 2%.
I'll do that too. I'll be like, all right, because I typically try to go for 3 to 3.5%. And I know that if it's -120 and I'm half a run higher, it's like, well, probably not going to have much edge there. So I got to pass on that.
Yep. It all depends on the key numbers too. The difference for me between if I have the total at 8 and the line is 7.5 -110, that's fine. But there's a bigger difference between 8.5 and 9, obviously, than 7.5 or 8. But just, if you're curious, the general difference between a half a run is like 18 to 20 cents. That's roughly the adjustment I make as we go down or up a half a run. My final 2 bets for Friday. Start with the Chicago White Sox -110 against Dakota Hudson. Dakota Hudson with a strikeout and walk ratio, as BJ said, not from 2015, but maybe from 1915. 41 strikeouts, 38 walks in 76 2/3 innings for Dakota Hudson. I believe his strikeout minus walk rate is like 1.5%. I can't do that one off the top of my head, but a 5.5 expected ERA, 5.2 expected FIP for Hudson. If you look over the past 4 or 5 years, he is the lowest strikeout minus walk rate amongst qualified pitchers over that span. And this guy's been a replacement level starter for quite some time. And he has numbers, the strikeout and walk numbers, that look like pre-Moneyball strikeout and walk numbers. Like, we used to see guys who could live in baseball or even have a ton of success in baseball that didn't even clear 2 strikeouts per walk. That's unthinkable in 2024. But Dakota Hudson is still moving and grooving. And it's a lot more enjoyable, I'll tell you, to bet the White Sox against the Rockies than it is the stomach. I'd much rather bet the White Sox -110 at home against the Rockies than I would bet them +280 at home against the Braves, even though they did win today. Like, it's just much easier to stomach betting the White Sox against a team like the Rockies, no matter the price, than it is against the Braves. So I'll be on Chicago. You may see Ty Block listed on some websites. We are at the part of the summer where not that people are getting lazy, but that these teams are getting banged up and switching things around. And Ty Block threw 30 pitches on Wednesday, and some books probably didn't realize that, even though he was initially listed as the starter. So it does look like Dakota Hudson has been swapped to the probable on MLB.com. Not that necessarily means anything, as we've explored in past episodes of this podcast. But for now, it will be Dakota Hudson going, and Drew Thorpe getting the ball for the White Sox, who hasn't necessarily impressed me, but I did make this line closer to -120. Make these teams pretty even. Make Thorpe just a slightly better pitcher than Hudson. My other bet, the Arizona Diamondbacks at -145 against the Washington Nationals. I made this line closer to -170, -172. To be exact, Slade Ciccone, a guy I've bet on quite a bit this season, including his last start against the Phillies. And I love seeing all the tweets of, this Phillies team, how are they getting shut down by Slade Ciccone? Because you look at Slade Ciccone's ERA and you just expect him, the casual fan expects him to be a crappy pitcher, but he's not a crappy pitcher. Slade Ciccone is a league average pitcher. 99 stuff plus, 105 location plus, 104 pitching plus. Good command. As I said, I like guys with good command and average strikeout rates. I think they're good to bet on because they have a high floor. 14% strikeout minus walk rate, right around the league average. 4.11 expected ERA, right around league average. But that ERA over 5 masks his quality a little bit. What is Slade Ciccone? I think he's a poor man's Zach Eflin. 105, 115 stuff plus on his slider, 107 on his curve, 2 above average breaking balls. That is what Eflin is running with too. Eflin just has better command, and I think his breaking balls are a little bit better. I think his fastballs a little bit better too, but Zach Eflin is like a number 2, low end number 1 starter with 2 good breaking balls and elite command. I think Ciccone is a league average starter with 2 above average breaking balls and very good command. I think that's the difference between them. I think he's a solid starter. I think Brandon Pfaadt, his teammate, profiles pretty similarly, is a better version of that type of pitcher because I think his slider is nasty and I think he has a little bit more of an aggressive demeanor. But these are guys I bet on a lot this season. Ciccone, Pfaadt, probably my 2 most frequently bet pitchers this season, and firing at Ciccone again on Friday. BJ, any other thoughts before we get out of here?
No, I do like that Diamondbacks angle. Like you said, like they're in the better split advantage against JP Sears as well. Ciccone, yeah, somebody I've been you mentioned it. I've been projecting value on him in his last couple starts, and you kind of hit the nail on the head that people think he sucks, but he's just an average pitcher, and that's where we can find some value. So yeah, I'll probably be joining you on the Diamondbacks as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's everything about him. That's what I like to see at this point. Now that we have so many metrics available to us to evaluate pitchers, right? We have expected ERA. XFIP is it's like a little bit the thing of the past for me, but I still like to look at expected FIP just to see where it compares to everything else. Strikeout minus walk rate, where you rank relative to league average, which is about 13-14%, I think is important. And then seeing those stuff metrics and the stuff plus rating, the location plus rating, and your pitching plus rating, how does that compare relative to 100? So if you have a league average strikeout minus walk rate, league average pitch modeling metrics, in Cicone's case, above average because the command is plus, and a league average expected ERA of 4.11, I'm expecting that you're going to quack like a league average pitcher at some point. So yeah, Ciccone for me, a guy I've bet on a bunch, a guy I hope remains undervalued because I don't mind betting on him. And I don't know, maybe his name, maybe there's something goofy about him. People just don't connect the fact that he might be a decent arm. But yeah, the D-backs have a lot of guys. Ryan Nelson pops up really high on stuff plus leaderboards. I don't know if they're like intentionally developing pitching for stuff plus, but for whatever reason, the Diamondbacks have a ton of guys who are coming up from the minors who pop on stuff plus. Not Tommy Henry, but everybody but Tommy Henry. And as I mentioned, before we get out of here, just keeping an eye on the Royals, the Cardinals, and also we just didn't have a lot of first 5 inning lines available to us before this podcast started tonight. We are recording a little bit later than we usually do on Thursday. Don't really know what happened with the market. Maybe we just had a bunch of games later in progress relative to other Thursdays, because I feel like more games are usually over by now by the time we're recording, but wasn't the case tonight. But before you go, make sure to download the free award-winning Action Network app and make sure to leave us that 5-star rating and review wherever you listen to your podcast for a chance to win Action Swag or a free Action Pro subscription. Also, check out the Action Network Discord. There's a link in the episode description of this podcast. For BJ Cunningham, I'm Sean Zerillo. We'll be back for more best bets for Monday's slate. Thank you for listening to Payoff Pitch, Action Network's MLB betting podcast presented by BetMGM. Good luck with all your bets. We'll see you next time.